this is going to destroy the company. And John Reed wasn't used to being talked to like this by someone. So he liked me, but he thought I was a little too aggressive. I said, this will destroy the company. And the second we announced this, people will be digging trenches, stockpiling ammunition to see who's going to win these battles. Sandy, John, Jamie, this one, this. I said, and by the time you joke is figured out, we're going to lose a lot of good people. And I actually was the first casualty. Sandy called me up. I had 100 kids at my house recruiting, for Solomon Smith Barney. And these, we had a management meeting at 4. He said, can you come at 12? I said, no, I'm having a big buffet breakfast for these people. He said, it's important. So I go up there, I go to a room like this. Sandy and John are there, and they say they make a bunch of changes. And they listed change A, change B, and change C as we want you to resign. To which I said, okay. So I knew the game. They already talked to the board. They already lined it up. I was actually shocked about A and B. I was not shocked about C. And I should have known that, and Sandy, look, you got to ask him the motivation. That John Reed wanted to leave. I was the natural successor. That's one of the reasons John wanted me at the company. Sandy had convinced John that if, it's more important these two guys get along. And I think a lot of the board members told me, because I knew them all, a lot of them is that, that if you stayed, Sandy would have had to go and he didn't want to go. And obviously, I think the board made a mistake, and this is where boards should do the right thing and not the thing that makes the boss happy. Lessons learned, our relations have gone south a lot before that. I called him up after a year. He didn't call me. I called him up after a year and said, saying it's time we got together. They treated me terribly on the way out. Literally, they threw me on the street. Like, they gave me an office and then called me up right before Christmas. You got to leave the office. I said, well, why? They said, well, we're not going to give presidents of the company offices anymore. I said, yeah, but you already have 5 ex-presidents and vice chairman of the offices. They said, well, this moment going forward, not you. I said, really? And they said, yeah, and you have to leave by December 30th. Anyway, I saw Sandy a year later, and I walked in, and he wanted to do it the 4 seasons. He was nervous. I was not. I said to him, Sandy, I'm going to talk just a minute about the past. I don't think you did the right thing for Citibank, but I want you to know that I made a lot of mistakes. And whether it was 60-40 or 40-60 doesn't really matter. And I listed some of my mistakes. And some of my mistakes were lessons, forever. Like I acted, some of the things I did, I acted out of anger. I was so angry about some of the stupid things, it just flew out of me sometimes. And, as you know, that almost always backfires. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. And so that, you learn that and you've seen this too, where some people, it's just enough isn't enough. And it's not about being proud of the beautiful thing you built. It's being about, what does it mean for you? How does it look for you? And ultimately it destroyed the company.
After you got terminated, I remember you picked up boxing. What did that do for you?
So what happened was they asked me, would you want to do press that night? And I said, yeah, but I want to do that from home. Would you want to see the press? I said, yes. I met the senior team. I wish them all the best. That night, maybe 50 or 100 people came to my home, and they said, don't tell Sandy. And it was like going to your own wake. They were toasting me, and my net worth, not my self-worth, that was involved. So I never felt bad. And some people outside treated me like a leper, like stay away from this guy. And other people, like literally, I'd be running through the park. Yay, Diamond, you showed him. I was like, well, good. I got myself fired. That's what I did. But I immediately, they kicked me out right away. So all of a sudden, you're working 80 hours a week to zero. So I was like, what the hell am I going to do? So I made a list of stuff. So I bought I literally went to the bookstore and bought like 30 or 40 books. And instead of reading the paper in the morning for an hour and 15 minutes, it was 2.5. And then I made a list of those things I wanted to do. Visit my brother in Denmark. I drove cross country by myself. I had a friend doing boxing at a hole-in-the-wall gym downtown. And so I did all those things, And the only thing that was on the list I think I did not do is climb Kilimanjaro. I took my family on a long trip to Europe, luxury leisure type of trip. Took them on RV trips and I was thinking about what I wanted to do. I wasn't, as you know, I was on your board. It was fun for me.
Yeah. Well, I remember, that at that time, you agreed to go on the board. And I remember Andy Pearson, who we've talked about a little bit, he was talking about putting this board together. And he says, you got to get this young whippersnapper, Jamie Dimon, to come on the board. You're going to be around for a long time. You and him will be a great team. And boy, was he right. And what'd you learn just serving on the board? Because I saw such a different business than the the finance world.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I think it's great to see how someone else runs it. I love talking to CEOs. How do you run your joint? Because a lot of CEOs run it differently, and they're all good. Some are terrible, but like, how do you run it? What do you do? Where do you spend your day? How much fun do you have? And it's the same with the board. Like boards are like juries, man. They could be. I've dealt with tons of boards, and they could be bureaucratic. They could be politicized. But Andy, as you know, put together like one of the best boards of all time. Ken Langone was on the board, and Bob Ulrich from Target, who was a great company. John Weinberg would run Goldman Sachs, and Bob Holland, and he ran it. I mean, Andy was, I still would say, the best to watch of anyone I've ever seen about how he just ran the meeting. All your guys would come present and how they're doing here, and he always had a very good way of saying, "That's not exactly the way it works." I forgot how he exactly did it, but it wasn't wasted time. Got right to the point. Was never rude, tough, but never rude. Always evaluating the people, how they thought about a problem, how they thought about an issue, how they attacked the problem. You guys had tons of problems when we were there, and each one, how you attacked it. You had the GMS problem, then the distributor went bankrupt, and all these things. But you learn in life, how do people deal with problems? The board was completely open. It was a lot of fun. We went to taste your foods, and you always took us to branches, to restaurants, and you just learn how people think, and even if you don't join another board, I'm not on any other board now, I tell people it's a really good thing to see how other people do things, because I go to anything I go to where other CEOs are there, or the business roundtable or business council, stuff that you've done. I'm taking notes when I hear someone did X. Saying, that's a neat idea.
Yeah.
Why don't we do? Matter of fact, at my board, I still do since we last met. So you did it every board meeting, and I've been doing it every board meeting since Bank One. I still do it today, and it was your idea, like how you. And for those on the podcast, it was telling the board honestly everything important since you last met, good, bad, ugly. It could be the product, the food, the tasting, the profits, the China business, an honest assessment from the CEO. Like I said, the good, the bad, the ugly. And it's a great tool. I still type it out, and I still keep it. And in fact, I was speaking today about having some of the people who run the businesses do it themselves since we last met, as opposed to a presentation.
Yeah.
And so I still learn things from tons of other people, how to do things better. And